Hello everyone, thank you for attending today's webinar. It will be about fiber, its trends and the opportunities this technology represents for actors. Before starting the presentation, I would like to briefly say a few words about Datexis activities. So Datexis is a global business intelligence company which has offices in Europe, Americas and Africa. Regarding its research activity, Datexis is a leader in market intelligence of the pay TV and telecommunications in emerging markets, including Latin America. Datexis also organizes events, Next TV series and Future Ad series conferences, which are hosted in Miami, Mexico, Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires, Bogota, Berlin, Abidjan, and Mauritius. And finally, Datexis proposes a newsletter called Next TV News for Latin America, Brazil, and Africa. So my agenda will be the following. First, I will present a global broadband market overview to show how fiber internet is rising across the world. Then I will show case studies on the development of fiber and compare the case of the situation of fiber with DSL and cable. After that, I will use the example of the wholesale model to show how fiber can still continue to be developed. And finally, I will present the opportunities allowed by fiber for operators in general and for OTTs, in fact, advanced television in particular. But before starting, I would like just to briefly recall the definition of fiber. Fiber refers to a broadband network architecture that can carry data at high speeds over long distances using optical fibers. Optical fibers are glass or plastic threads bundled together that transmit information in the form of light pulses. With such technology, the signals are transmitted much faster and with less loss and interference compared to electric wires like copper cables used in traditional telephone lines, which is why it was used, first of all, to cover long distances. Today, fiber connection is favored by consumers mostly because it provides high-speed internet, which is particularly recommended for fast downloading, streaming, to watch movies and sports rapidly and without any interruption. Fiber is often referred to as FTTX, for fiber to the X, because there are different types of fibers depending on the distance between the optical fiber and the end user. In this webinar, I will only address FTTH, and so fiber to the home, and FTTB, fiber to the building, and not FTTC, which is in fact VDSL, neither FTTN, which are not considered as real fiber. So I will begin with a world overview of the broadband market. Among the four technologies that are fiber, cable, ADSL, and VDSL, that can also be referred together as XDSL, fiber is the most dynamic in terms of subscribers. The chart on the left shows the evolution of the number of subscribers between 2010 and 2018, and we can see that the number of subscribers has been continuously growing for fiber and even surpassed DSL 2 years ago in 2016. The second graphic emphasizes the dynamism of fiber also, because it shows that the annual growth of this technology has been multiplied by 5 between 2011 and 2018, and even exceeded the growth of the whole broadband market in last year. The reason being that in parallel, DSL has had a negative growth. So it's very impressive. And the last chart presents the global market in terms of subscribers market shares for each technology. Here, I have made a distinction between ADSL and VDSL, and we can notice that VDSL is still gaining market shares as opposed to ADSL, but it is still not good because it's not a very good performance for a technology which has been launched only a few years ago. So DSL in general is losing market shares, while fiber represents an increasingly large part of the market, with cable looking like it maintains its position in this global overview. So this global evolution is in fact very contrasted when we look at the different regions of the world. It appears in fact that Asia is really driving the growth of the fiber market, especially China, which accounts for 82% of the total fiber subscribers in Asia Pacific. Europe is behind, and even more so North America, Latin America, and Africa. Nevertheless, it is still a fact that fiber is growing everywhere. It is clearly a strong trend that is unlikely to stop. And what is also interesting to note is that apparently fiber penetration is not related at all to the wealth of the territory. In fact, fiber is more developed in countries with a high density of population like China, or where there are a lot of high buildings, like in Spain. Which brings me to my first focus, which will be on Spain, and will demonstrate that in countries where fiber has been launched, incumbent operators are moving from DSL to fiber. So when we look at Spain, we can see that between 2012 and 2018, fiber has taken almost all the market shares of DSL in terms of subscribers. And the example of Telefónica shows that trend at the operator level. You can see a clear slicer effect in Q1 2017 between DSL, the least advanced technology, and fiber. Another example is France. In France, the trend is less pronounced, but we still notice that fiber has been growing compared to DSL, as it is part of the operator's strategy to switch progressively to fiber. For instance, in the case of Orange, the leading French broadband operator, we see that the number of fiber subscribers has been increasing for the last years. And so the examples of Spain and France illustrate that where fiber is launched, it is always successful compared to the declining technology that is DSL, but with varying degrees of maturity, which depend a lot on the existing competitive environment. Besides the traditional actors which are making the transition to fiber, it is also interesting to mention the pure players that decided to offer from the start only fiber and build their own network to do so. So we have in Europe Altibox in Norway, in Denmark Wahoo, also Altibox, Salt in Switzerland, Deutsche Glasfaser in Germany, Hyperoptic and GigaClear in UK, Google Fiber in the US, and in a lot of local initiatives in Brazil. I gave a few examples, but there are many more, and also Canalbox operating in several countries of Western Africa. Of course, these pure players represent only a small part of the total fiber subscribers, but they are still going after market shares, and they are doing quite well. So it is interesting to evoke their existence. So we saw earlier that fiber seems to accelerate the decline of DSL, which is not surprising as DSL is the least advanced of the two technologies. But in countries where fiber is offered, subscribers are even preferring it to advanced cable like DOCSIS, even though it has an equivalent performance, apparently. In Spain, for example, Vodafone bought initially Ono to benefit from its new generation access infrastructure, but the number of the cable subscribers still started to decrease after Q3 2016. while fiber was increasing. And in the case of Telenor Norway, we see that cable has not progressed since 2015, despite being the historic infrastructure, and that the decline of DSL is in fact compensated only by the growth in fiber. The example of Altice is also interesting regarding that subject. In France, Altice bought SFR originally to migrate its DSL subscribers to cable. It was its first strategy, but the decrease in DSL subscribers we see is more important than the increase in cable subscribers because of the parallel development of fiber. And Altice apparently took this into account when it launched its internet service in the US in 2016, offering from the beginning not just cable, but also fiber. On the contrary, in countries where there is still no fiber market, because fiber is not everywhere, cable operators manage to grow their customer base, or at least maintain it, because they are undoubtedly selling the best offer. So in the case of Germany, for instance, when we look at Unitymedia and Vodafone, it's the case, and in the US, the number of cable subscribers also increases, even though the market is already rather saturated. So these examples illustrate that even though fiber is very dynamic, generally speaking, there are still areas where its penetration remains low compared to cable or DSL. So we see on this map of FTTX penetration in Europe, for instance, there is still almost no fiber in Belgium, in Germany, in Austria, in fact, countries with a lot of cable, but also not so much in UK, in Ireland. So we can make a few remarks about that. First, we see that there is no correlation between GDP and fiber penetration, so it does not depend on the wealth of the country. In fact, what plays a more important role is the competitive environments in these countries. So in countries where there are almost only big cable operators, what happens is that there are sort of cartels of operators, so they have an implicit agreement to maintain status quo, so it does not encourage innovation, the launch of a new technology. Also, I mentioned this earlier, as building a fiber network is a heavy investment, especially for small players, the density of population or the degree of housing verticality have a real influence. Indeed, connecting each household to fiber is costlier in rural areas and even in urban areas with a lot of individual houses. For instance, in UK, in Ireland, we have a lot of individual houses. So it's more difficult to connect this type of houses to fiber than to connect an entire building. And there are many people are living more in high buildings in Spain, for instance, or in the east of Europe. So it makes a difference. Also, what is important is the pre-existing infrastructures. So for instance, in some Eastern European countries, there are no DSL nor cable before they are opening towards the West. So since the 90s, a lot of companies, it's only in the 90s that a lot of companies have really rushed to the market and built networks instead of using unbundling. All the more as telephony lines could be almost inexistent or very bad in these countries. So there, some operators prefer to build from scratch fiber networks. Not always FTTH, but at least FTTB, like in Romania or in Bulgaria. And that brings me to discuss about one of the ways to encourage investment in fiber, because it's a real investment to build a network, and it's the wholesale model. In this model, the provider focuses on investing in infrastructure and providing wholesale services to ISPs, and does not offer broadband services directly to the public. So it's the ISPs that provide the service to the public. One of the earliest initiatives called Stokab was established in Sweden in 1994, but in fact, most of the wholesale networks existing nowadays have been built after year 2000. So in the following table, each listed country illustrates a type of wholesale model. So in Europe, for instance, in Italy, we have Enel Open Fiber, which is a national utility initiative supported by the government. In Ireland, the model is the one of a joint venture between an electricity utility and an ISP open to third parties. So it's called CERO. It's a joint venture between ESB, the national electricity supplier company, and Vodafone. So in France, it's different also. The model is of public service delegation contracts, so local collectivities initiatives to accelerate the coverage of areas deprived of fiber. They are called COVAGE, Action, TDF, SFR Collectivité, etc. In Poland, it's not public but private initiative. Supported by the European Union, which finance this initiative in return for the construction of a network providing wholesale services to other actors. We have INEA and Orange Poland, which did that. In Switzerland, it's mainly utilities, utility companies, in fact, electricity companies and cities, with the example of Swiss FiberNet, SYG for the city of Geneva, IWB for the region of Basel, EWZ for Zurich. In Australia, the NBN network, created in 2009, is a government initiative. So the government decided to create a national unified infrastructure for the country. And in South Africa, it's also different. It's many private local initiatives. They are called OpenServe, Vuma, Link Africa, Dark Fiber Africa, many private networks. So I would like just to present a few of them. Oops, excuse me. Up. So the first one is CERO in Ireland. It's 100% fiber to the building broadband network, which was launched in 2015. So in 2012, the ESB, the Irish state-owned electricity company, began to look for a partner in a joint venture company to deploy a nationwide fiber to the building network, which will use ESB existing network infrastructure. So Vodafone was chosen as a preferred bidder for the project because it's the Ireland's leading mobile telecom operator. So it was obvious that it was best suited for this joint venture. So both parties, ESB and Vodafone, committed to 450 million euros to connect the first 51 towns of Ireland. Another example is NBN in Australia. NBN was established in 2009 to design, build and operate Australia's wholesale broadband access network. So it provides services on its local access networks on equivalent terms to more than 150 retail phone and internet providers. So these providers can meet the needs of end users. So it's a government initiative which intends to create a strong competition within the ISPs, which will use this nationwide network. And finally, a few words about South Africa, because we saw earlier that fiber is not very developed, still not very developed in this area. But so this chart made by the South African regulator shows indeed that DSL is still preferred and growing in South Africa, but fiber is nevertheless developing at a fast pace, especially thanks to the expanding networks built by private initiatives. OpenServe, which is a separate division of Telkom, a South African fixed broadband company, is a good example, a good illustration of the South African situation, because it has an important ADSL and VDSL infrastructure, but is also trying to develop a wide network of optic fiber. And it managed to connect 80,000 homes to fiber. So, and on the right, you have many examples of other actors that are doing the same, building also open reach networks in South Africa. So finally, I would like to present the opportunities that are offered by the increasing development of deployment of fiber for different kinds of actors. First, for new ISPs, it's an opportunity to enter the broadband market with less entry barriers, because they do not have to invest in the network. So of course it's easier for small actors. So I gave you a few examples. You have, for instance, Coriolis in France, which is using the TDF network, Ini7 in Switzerland. Also for existing internet service providers positioned on DSL, it's an opportunity to grow by switching to a more advanced technology, of course. And for some operators, especially cable operators, it's also an opportunity to expand beyond their own network with a more lasting and attractive solution than DSL unbundling. I gave you the example of Quickline, which is historically a cable operator, but which has launched fiber also to be able to reach more subscribers. And it's, of course, it's also an opportunity to expand beyond your own territory. For instance, Melita, which is an operator from Malta, managed to expand to launch an offer in Italy using Open Fiber, the network, the fiber network of Italy. So it is particularly interesting. Fiber is particularly interesting because it allows operators to launch convergent offers, which are obviously a competitive advantage for an operator. It can be mobile operators like T-Mobile, or TV operators like Sky, which do not have a fixed broadband infrastructure, but have a large installed base of subscribers for mobile or TV, which have a real brand that they can promote. So the wholesale model allows them to finally launch an offer, a broadband offer. So I gave you the example of T-Mobile in Poland. T-Mobile made a deal with Orange to use their FTTH network, and Sky, like Melita, launched an offer in Italy, an internet offer, and not just TV. Thanks to Open Fiber, so the fiber network of Italy. And on the contrary, for operators with no TV offer, like Salt or Vodafone in Ireland, fiber gives the possibility to offer high-speed IPTV and OTT, so advanced television solutions, which is very interesting. So that also brings me to talk about Cloud TV, because like fiber, Cloud TV is also a way to deploy advanced TV offers very in a very easy way, because it's Cloud TV reduces infrastructure costs by having everything in the cloud. The operators do not need to have facilities with employees and equipment, and so that way they can use their financial resources more for branding, marketing. So it's very interesting, and it enables them to enter this advanced television markets more easily. I gave you a few examples of operators using Cloud TV solutions. You have, for instance, Salt in Switzerland, which is using Zatu solutions for its IPTV. Deutsche Glasfaser, which selected Amino, or Online in Netherlands, which has been acquired by M7 Group, that made a deal with Stream to launch its IPTV using Cloud TV. So to conclude this presentation, fiber is with no doubt the most dynamic broadband technology in the world, although the situation is a bit different depending on the area, with Asia driving the growth of fiber, but still it's a real strong trend that is happening everywhere. In fact, customers tend to always prefer fiber to cable internet, even though significant innovations have been made regarding this technology. Fiber is an opportunity for new entrant ISPs and a solution for incumbents to defend their position. More specifically, fiber encourages the launch of advanced TV services, especially so IPTV, high-speed IPTV, direct-to-consumer OTT, with the possible help of Cloud TV solutions. Yeah, we at Dataxis think that fiber is absolutely here to stay, but we will definitively pay attention to the deployment of 5G, because it could be where the disruption comes from, as it is easy to install and to use. It allows mobility. We will see in the following years, we will see whether or not mobile replaces fixed broadband to provide high-speed internet. So now is the time for questions. You can submit your questions in the chat if you want. I will try to answer if I have the answer. Okay, so I do not see questions. So anyway, don't hesitate to send me any questions if you have, because that you can have, because I will take the time to answer to you. You have here my email. And so if you, of course, you can also consult the webinar presentation on our website. It will be available tomorrow. So this is the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for having attended the presentation. Yes, so do not hesitate to ask me any information about today's topic and to visit our website. Thank you all. Goodbye.